Angela was a cruel and heartless woman who treated her stepdaughter, Ella, with kindness only when it suited her. One night, Angela's anger boiled over, and she woke Ella up, shouting at her. Ella, scared and confused, begged Angela to explain, but Angela just shoved her towards the door. As Ella stepped out into the dark, Angela slammed the door shut behind her, leaving her alone and frightened. Ella had no money, no phone, and no idea where to go. She walked for hours, tears streaming down her face, until she reached a nearby park. Shivering with fear and cold, Ella curled up on a bench, wondering why Angela hated her so much. The next day, Ella struggled to survive. She scavenged for food and avoided danger. But her heart ached for love and acceptance. Meanwhile, Angela returned to her normal routine, pretending nothing had happened, but Ella's fate took a turn when she met a kind-hearted woman named Grace, who offered her food and shelter. Grace listened to Ella's story. She told her to help herself food and promised to give her food afterwards. Ella's mother died while giving birth to her, leaving her father, James, heartbroken. Despite his grief, James devoted himself to raising Ella, showering her with love and support. He was both mother and father to her, and Ella thrived under his care. As Ella grew older, James realized it was time to find companionship again. He wanted a partner to share his life with and a mother figure for Ella. That's when he met Angela, who seemed kind and gentle. James was smitten, and after a whirlwind romance, they got married. At first, Angela played the role of a loving stepmother, but it wasn't long before her true nature revealed itself. She grew resentful of the bond between James and Ella. Feeling like an outsider, Angela began to manipulate James, turning him against his own daughter. James, blinded by love for Angela, didn't see the harm she was causing. He started to distance himself from Ella, leaving her feeling abandoned and confused. Angela's cruelty intensified, and Ella became the target of her wrath. One fateful night, Angela's wickedness reached its peak, and she sent Ella out into the darkness, as I mentioned earlier. James, still oblivious to Angela's true nature, didn't even notice Ella's absence, but the next, James began to see the error of his ways. He realized too late that he had made a terrible mistake in marrying Angela. The woman he thought would bring joy to their lives had instead brought destruction. Now, James must confront the consequences of his actions and fight to reclaim his relationship with Ella. "Angela, where is Ella?" he demanded, his voice firm but laced with concern. "I haven't seen her since morning, and I've been looking everywhere for her." Angela, lounging on the couch, feigned innocence. "I don't know what you're talking about, James. I haven't seen Ella either." "Maybe she went out with friends." James's eyes narrowed. "Don't lie to me, Angela. I know something's going on." "Ella wouldn't just disappear without a word." Angela shrugged, a sly smile spreading across her face. "Maybe she finally realized she's not welcome here and left on her own." James's anger flared, but he kept his cool. "That's not true, and you know it. Ella is my daughter, and I will not let anyone harm her." "Tell me the truth, Angela. What have you done with her?" Angela's smile grew wider, her eyes glinting with malice. "I don't know what you're insinuating, James. But if you're so worried about Ella, maybe you should try looking harder." James's fists clenched, his mind racing with worst-case scenarios. He knew Angela was hiding something, but he needed proof. He vowed to find Ella, no matter what it took, and make sure Angela paid for her cruelty. James stormed out of the house. He searched every corner of the city, his heart heavy with worry. He asked around, showed Ella's picture to passers-by, and even checked with her friends, but no one had seen her. Just when he was about to lose hope, he spotted a familiar figure by the roadside. Ella, his beloved daughter, was helping an elderly woman sell food at a makeshift stall. James's eyes welled up with tears as he rushed towards her, relief washing over him. But what struck him was the sight of Ella, helping a woman sell food just so she could have some time to eat. As he approached, the elderly woman smiled at him. "Ah, you must be Ella's father. She's been a blessing to me today." James's eyes met Ella's, and he saw a mix of emotions, shame, fear, and a hint of defiance. He knew she had been through a lot, but he also saw the resilience and kindness that had always defined her. "Ella, my dear, what are you doing here?" James asked, trying to keep his emotions in check. Ella looked down. "I just wanted to help, Father. I didn't want to be a burden." James's heart broke at her words. He knew Angela's cruelty had driven his daughter to this point. He gently took Ella's hand, his voice firm but gentle. "You will never be a burden to me, Ella. You are my daughter, and I will always take care of you." Together, they walked away from the roadside stall and headed home. As James and Ella walked into the house, Angela's eyes widened in shock. She hadn't expected Ella to return, especially not with James by her side. For a moment, she seemed frozen, her mind racing with the implications. James's expression was stern, his voice firm but controlled. "Ella, we need to talk." Angela's composure returned, and she sneered at Ella. "Look who's back. I thought you'd be gone for good." Ikenna's warning gaze silenced her. "Angela, I know what you did. I know you sent Ella out into the night, alone and scared. Let me make one thing clear, never, ever, will you harm my daughter like that again." Angela's smile faltered, and she took a step back, realizing too late that James had discovered her cruel deed. "If you ever lay a hand on Ella, or treat her with such cruelty again," James continued, his voice low and even, "you will leave this house for good. Do you understand me?" Angela's eyes flashed with anger, but she knew she had gone too far. She nodded curtly, her lips pressed together in a thin line. James's gaze lingered on her, ensuring she understood the gravity of her actions. Then, he turned to Ella and opened his arms. "My dear, I'm so sorry I wasn't there for you. I promise to always protect and love you." Ella's eyes welled up with tears as she hugged her father tightly, finally feeling safe and loved once more. Despite James's warning, Angela continued to treat Ella with cruelty and disdain. She would often belittle her, make her do excessive chores, and even withhold food from her. James, though busy with work, couldn't help but notice the toll Angela's behavior was taking on his daughter. One day, he'd had enough. He confronted Angela, his voice firm and resolute. "Angela, I warned you before. Your cruelty towards Ella ends now. Pack your bags and leave. You're no longer welcome in this house." Angela, realizing too late that James was serious, pleaded with him to forgive her. "James, please. Ella is a bad child, she's the one causing problems between us." But James stood firm. "Ella is my beloved child. And I will never treat her badly or abandon her simply because her mother is late. You, on the other hand, have shown me your true colors. Leave now, and don't come back." Angela, her face twisted in anger and shame, stormed out of the house, leaving James and Ella in peace. Years passed, and James's heart healed. He met Jennifer, a kind-hearted woman who treated Ella like her own daughter. Together, they built a loving home, filled with laughter and warmth. Ella thrived under Jennifer's care, blossoming into a confident and compassionate young woman. James knew he'd made the right decision in sending Angela away, and he was grateful for a second chance at happiness.